Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. It is the Awesome Show. Amazing show. You see the Autism Watch right here. Definitely
Love
rocking the
it.
Autism Watch. Who's the Flex watches? Definitely shout out to you guys for this watch. These guys right here, the Block Gives Back. If you don't know about them, please check them out. They're on Instagram, Facebook, community-based organization. And when you read about their story, you're going to be amazed. Shout out to you guys. I salute you guys always. But tonight is very special. And the reason why is because we're touching on something that a lot of people have a problem talking about, and that's their finances. You know, it's with the stock market fluctuating daily and many centering on just if the Senate is going to pass the stimulus bill within the next couple of weeks, many individuals are in a state of belief when it comes to looking for a future savings for their child, yet alone are awesome children and adults that are on the spectrum. Now to add on to that, just that, and a child that's on the spectrum onto the equation is tremendous as far as the amount of money. So tremendous. I just got a stat, and this is from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The cost of raising an average child to the age of 18 is roughly $240,000. That's a lot of money. All right. So let's talk about a child that is on the spectrum. Now, Autism Speaks estimates that the lifetime cost for an individual with autism or any intellectual disability averages, now get this, 1.4 to 2.4 million dollars. I'm gonna say that again. Average cost of a child to the age of 18 without any intellectual disabilities, $240,000. Now we're speaking about children on the spectrum, 1.4 to 2.4 million dollars. That is a lot of money, a lot of money. So what can we do as awesome parents to ensure that we have a secure future for our children financially? Ladies and gentlemen, I have my pen and my pad ready. I also have my phone recording as well, because I'm ready to get all of this knowledge that my guest is actually going to speak about. Now, Jeffrey Slavic,
You
got it
got it.
right there. See, I got
Do
it
me a
right.
favor, please call me Jeff, because if you call me Jeffrey, I think you're mad at me.
My man Jeff. Now, the amazing part about Jeff is I have the opportunity to meet him. He is an awesome father on top of his financial advisory background. And this is an endless pun that we're going to put in there. Well, a little commercial break, but we are a part of a men's conference that will be happening. Is with Philly Autism. You can find more information out on Philly Autism's website. Our particular day that we will be speaking, it is on November 11th, and we will be headlining with Mr. Talented Eric Williams, and also we cannot leave out Dr. Robert Nassif. And I'm a part of this, and Jeff is too, and it's just amazing to be in contact with fellow men such as myself that's just looking how to navigate this, and bring that information out to other fathers so they can actually get a part of this information and do well with their family. So uh, definitely check out that. Join us. The conference is from the 9th to the 13th, but we have the 11th. But we would like for you to join us for all of the days. But you know what? No need for anything else. We just going to get right into the interview. My man Jeff, thank you for joining us here on the Awesome Show. You know a little bit about the Awesome Show, but this is basically a platform that I use just to talk to men. I found it hard with the diagnosis of my son to really just uh, compensate for all the feelings that I was feeling: regret, depression, anger, things of that nature. I didn't know what to do or where to go. Thank God, by the mercy and the help of God, I was able to grow and learn. And with that, I wanted to create a platform for men who is facing autism, and even maybe somebody that's not in the autism community that would like to learn a little bit more, or would like to just basically learn something new. You never know. So thank you for being a part of this growth in it. So let's get into this first question so people can really understand the knowledge that you have, because you're very knowledgeable
I'm
about
gonna try.
finances. So we want people to understand that there is hope when it comes down to their awesome child, especially with services, therapies, all medication, so many different things, and especially in these times. So the first question is a little bit about you. Can you share with everybody your story?
I sure can. And first, let me just say thanks for inviting me on, and for everybody out in the audience. Look, this is a journey. It can be a long one, and there can be plenty of times when it feels pretty lonely. So, you got to have people like Jamil here and the Awesome Show, and everybody has to try and be a resource for each other. It's truly so important to have a community. And to have a community of men and fathers it's even more special because, Jamil, I don't know if I told you this, but I've gone to so many, conferences and talks and, seminars and everything. And 9 times out of 10, I'm either the only dad or maybe there's one other guy I can talk to, and the rest are all moms. And that's not a knock on anybody. And congratulations to the moms for doing
Yes.
what they do.
Yes.
But dads, I think, have a really important role to play, and we have certainly an influence to put upon our children. So thank you so much for having me along. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So just give you a little bit of my background. My journey started probably about 10 years ago. My son is 12. He's going to be 13 in February. And just probably around when he was 24 months old, 2 years, he was not hitting all of his milestones and things like that. So, the doctor kind of told us that there may be some challenges that we were going to face along the way. And he got him started into some early intervention programs, which I think are so critical. And then it was on his third birthday that we got the diagnosis, and that was with his developmental pediatrician, which, man, I think we were on a waiting list for almost a year to get to one.
Wow.
And that was at CHOP, and my wife works there. So
Oh, wow.
we had no bullshit, I can tell you. So he was, he got his diagnosis on the appointment for his third birthday, and we kind of knew that we were going to get that diagnosis, but there's nothing like getting it and somebody saying it to you. And it's a punch in the gut.
Yeah.
At least it was for me. I can only speak for my situation. It was probably one of the worst days of my life.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that the way the diagnosis was delivered was almost as bad as the diagnosis, because the particular physician, who's no longer there, it was terrible. There was absolutely no compassion that came through, and yeah, what are you going to do? You try to move on, and so our journey starts. And look, I think the one thing that we've kind of learned, especially if you've talked to Dr. Nassif at all, is what do guys try to do? We try to fix things, right?
Yep.
And so you kind of go into a certain mode, and I do like to fix things. I mean, that there isn't a project around the house that I don't think I can fix. I'm not always right, but there isn't one that I don't think that I can fix. And that's kind of like the mode that I jumped into. And to make a very long story short, I discovered a gentleman by the name of Dr. Stanley Greenspan. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yes.
He was the developer of an approach called floor time. Well, just a few years before our diagnosis, Dr. Greenspan had passed. But I tried to absorb as many YouTube videos of his talks, his approaches, and things like that as I possibly could, and try and educate myself a little bit. We did find that his son, Jake, continues on, and he's down in Bethesda, Maryland. So we made an appointment and took our son down there. It's not cheap, man.
I can imagine.
Luckily we had some family members that lived about 10 minutes away, so we stayed with them.
Oh, lucky.
And we weren't there for long, just a couple days, but we
Okay.
got an idea and a concept of how to work with this program. One of my daughters took part, and she was part of the education process and everything.
Wow.
And it kind of started from there. My son is a dinosaur guy, or at least he was then. He still is.
There you go.
Lego man, kind of the the usual stuff. But our whole concept was we started talking to each other through dinosaurs.
Okay.
And it was one of the first times we really started to connect to each other. And it was through these dinosaurs. I'm talking like a T-Rex and he's talking like a whatever it was, and we're just talking to each other, and we were talking to each other, but we were using objects, and it was an incredible connection, and we've grown from that point, and that's kind of where things started from a diagnosis standpoint, and then many things have happened since then.
Wow. I mean,
some not so good, mostly good, but not all good.
Not all good, but I mean, you know what? I want people to understand that there is no coincidence about our awesome children and how they're diagnosed, and mainly for the parents. The parents have to realize that, across the board, across the world, the diagnosis is the same. The pain is the same. It's real pain that everyone feels. It doesn't matter who you are, what financial status, what color your skin is, it's still the same pain. So we can use that pain that we all feel and transform that into hope and coming together as a community, as a group, a world community, to really love on each other and really help each other through this. And I want people to really realize this. He knows my story. Jeff knows my story. But when you listen to his story, I can see exactly what I've been through, just like Jeff, the advances that he actually made for his son. I wish I was as proactive as Jeff in my first stages. And a lot of you guys know about my story and how I lacked in that. But that was because I was battling my own demons. I was battling that depression, that anger, that ego, that pride, but once again, everybody's on different stages. I got mine's together, Jeff got his together, and now look what we're doing. We're both trying to service the community with information that can help another father, help another family, help another mother. So I just want people to really pay attention to what you just gave as far as your story is really, really important. And I thank you for
it's not all sunshine and roses, buddy. I went through a lot of the same things. I went through the depression, I went through all that stuff. Also, that just didn't happen to me first. It happened probably as I realized the other things that were coming down the road. That's probably when it started to kick in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once again, thank you for being transparent and just opening up about your story. I mean, that's the main thing that people definitely need to hear. What made you move into the financial sector? I mean, what was it? Was it the pizzazz of, wearing the suit and the tie? Was it, talking figures and talking money? What was it exactly?
I like helping people.
Okay.
I grew up, my dad died, I was a year and a half old. Wow. My mom died, I was 21.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have a lot of, I had a father figure in my life, one of my uncles, but I don't know. I always kind of gravitated to work that was in line with helping people. And it's truly meaningful for me. And it probably fills that void that that I had when I was younger, and I was fortunate to have some mentors in my life, and some father figures that kind of helped me at a point where there was a crossroads that I came to, and one of my mentors was like, what are you doing? He's like, you're good with. I knew what he did. He was in the business, and he's like, you're giving me tips sometimes, and I didn't even know it. And he's like, why don't you try to go down this road? And it was a good opportunity. that I didn't want to pass by, allow to pass by. And I started, and I truly, I guess I'm pretty good with numbers. I guess it'd be hard to not be good with numbers and do it. But
Mhm.
I'm sure there are probably people that are better than me with numbers. But I think my ability to connect with people, and growing up, in grade school, one of my best friends was disabled. So you look back, and there are things in your life that make connections, and you find that those things in your life help prepare you for some of the things that you're doing now. And I truly believe that, growing up with not a lot of money, and growing up without, a dad and all those things, and having a really good friend that was disabled, I truly believe that they helped me put me in a position for where I am right now.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. I mean, once again, the correlation between your story and my story, I feel exactly the same way. Not a lot of people know that I have a physical disability myself. I'm proud of it. At first, I was not. It was horrible. I was mocked. I was ridiculed. I was gawked at. It was bad for my self-esteem. But then as I got older and then I had my son Shane, I realized that I was being taught the things horrible of the world so I can make sure my son does not
Yep.
go down the wrong path. And autism is not a disability. Let's get that out there first. It's a gift. It's a gift that we all would want, actually. And the reason why I say that is because of the things like compassion, empathy, just love, undying, true, unfiltered love, what these kids actually give off. And then their intelligence is through the roof. I mean, these are things that we search for. So what I learned in the midst of my situations in life growing up, because of my disability, I was able to see what my son may encounter and be able to begin to coach him, be able to talk to him, to speak on him, to love on him in a different way. So that's just a gift given from God. We don't find out the jewels that God gives us until we get there to that exact spot, and we sit there like, wow, you know what? I never would have been here if it wasn't for him, or I never would have realized what my true calling is in this world. So it's amazing. Like I said, it's amazing to hear your story, because it's a mirror, and I'm glad that you made it, out of that, dark, those dark times and everything. And even though we still have dark times, we still persevere, we still keeping on strong, because now we know. So that's definitely
Hey,
good.
I'm wearing a nice clean shirt right now, but I can tell you I got in an awful lot of fights because of my friend that had a disability. I look, the world's not always a kind place. There are a lot of
Yeah.
beautiful people in a world that is not always kind. There's a lot of beautiful people,
Yep, you're right.
but it's not always kind, and it's not always kind to kids like ours.
You're right. You're right. Absolutely right. 100%, man. I couldn't said it better, Jeff. Um, can you tell the people the importance about financial literacy? It's very important. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, that's a huge topic, man.
I
So
know.
important, so important because it has so many aspects, and it goes into your life in so many ways. I personally, I think that financial literacy is one of the most important things that anyone can have in their life. It's anything from understanding how credit works, to investing for your future, to protecting your family. There are just so many aspects that people don't always realize the importance of it. And just credit itself, understanding how credit affects the interest rates that you get
Hmm.
on, whether it's a credit card, a car loan, a mortgage payment, or whatever it is. Just having some understanding of what that is so critical, because it just steals money from you.
Yeah.
High rates steal money from you, and that's what it does. It steals money from you. I, I think when we were talking before, one of the things that we talked about was that we nobody ever taught us about money, and I didn't learn about money growing up either. We didn't have any. So there was nothing to teach. So it's the one thing, and we were talking, you and I could walk down the street. We may not have anything in common. We might pass each other by on the street. You know, we may be friends. Who knows? But there's one thing that you and I and everybody that's watching has in common. And you can throw anything else out, but we all have money in common.
There you go.
And it's the one thing that nobody teaches in school.
That's right.
You know, I mean, my kids get a few little tidbits about, you know, how to open a checking account and stuff like that. That is so, they're just so missing the target, because I've sat with clients that said, well, you know, nobody ever taught me about money. And because I didn't go to college. And I told them, I said, they don't teach you in college either.
Nope, they sure
not
don't.
Unless that's what you study. So
they sure
how
don't.
is it that we can go through our entire educational system out into the world and nobody's ever taught us about money?
You're right.
It's incredible.
Right.
It's incredible. Right. I mean, I'm sorry, I get on a soapbox when I talk about this stuff.
Oh, no, listen.
I just think it's ridiculous how nobody's taught about money.
This is what we need to hear. This is definitely what, you know, parents need to hear out here, because, you know, they need to start setting up, you know, that financial stability now, if they haven't already, or they may be in the process of it, maybe hitting a couple of roadblocks. So, you know, the reason, once again, we were talking, you know, economics is something that is taught in school, but economics is world economics. It doesn't talk about home economics, where your neighborhood is, right where you're at, your residence. It doesn't talk about that personal economics on how you should actually be saving money, maneuvering your money around, what things you should actually do. And especially for a person with a child that's on the spectrum, it's a different ball game now. So many different things that come into play with that. And not a lot of people are understanding that. Once again, the figure that I gave earlier was, you know, 240,000 to an individual who is not on the spectrum, compared to a child that's on the spectrum, 1.4 to 2.4 million dollars. That's a lot of money. That is tremendous amount of money to actually spend for a child. Is it worth it? Hell yeah, it's worth it. That's your child. But at the end of the day, can we make sure that you can serve a lot of that money into your own pocket, into your child, so it can continue to go with them, whether they need services, you know, worst case scenario, they need care for life, but it will be paid for. And there's one less thing to bear burden on that child or that individual going through life, you know? So I think definitely I can feel your passion with it. Trust me, I definitely can. And like I said, I learned a little bit later, you know, around 32, 31, 32 is when I really started piecing stuff together.
As long as you learn, man.
That is the best thing about it. As long as you learn and give that information over to other people, you know, so they can learn too. So speaking of awesome parents, what type of savings accounts us as awesome parents can utilize right now to start saving for our children?
So look, I'm a big believer in having a plan. And I'm going to tell you an account that I think can work well, but I'm going to encourage everybody to put some type of plan together, because what I'm about to mention is a piece of it. It doesn't solve all problems, but you may be familiar with ABLE accounts, ABLE accounts.
Yes.
I think ABLE accounts are great. They don't solve all problems. But if somebody is looking to put money away and try and help do something now, the beauty of an ABLE account is that it's not going to, when the child turns 18, it's not going to endanger them or disqualify them from Medicaid or SSI. And we'll talk about, you know, those things and how we make sure that you know, once you get benefits, you never want to lose them, because they're too hard to get back.
That's right.
So you got to put everything in place the right way to make sure that nothing, you know, you can have some really great plans and put things in place, but man, if you don't dot the I in the right place and cross the T the right way, it's all for naught. It's all for naught. And it's really important. You know, you need to, Look, when you get on an airplane, what do they tell you? What's the first thing they tell you? They start talking about, if something happens, they tell you that the mask's going to drop, right? And what do
Mm-hmm.
they tell you? Put the mask on
Put the
yourself
mask
before you
on.
put it on somebody else. So
Yep.
you got to take care of yourself, right?
Yep.
You've got to. I'm not saying you don't worry about the child, but you got to take care of yourself. You got to make sure that you're in a good place. You're doing what you need to get yourself in a good place. You're saving for your retirement. You're doing those things. I know that one of the easiest actions can be, I need to do something for my child. And I'm not trying to tell anybody not to do it, okay?
Yeah.
But we got to all clean up our own house, right? Every day I got to clean my house because my kid's leaving a mess. So it's the same thing with my finances. You always got to try and make sure that your finances are in a good place as best as they can be. And then you start doing things for the child, or you kind of take like maybe a hybrid approach. You do a little bit of both. But there are some really big things that everybody needs to take care of, as far as their finances are concerned. And, you need to take care of your own retirement. You need to take care of, make sure that everything's sound in your own home. Because when that child grows up, you're probably going to retire, right?
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you're going to retire. And you need to be in a good place for yourself to still be able to take care of that child. Look, we all have, the spectrum is such a wide range. We all have different hopes and dreams, right?
Yeah.
You better have plan A in place. You better have plan B in place. And then, boy, I'm going to tell you something. You better have plan C in place too.
Yeah, especially these
life's
days.
Going to challenge you in a lot of different ways. And you got to be able to be somewhat prepared to handle those different challenges. One of the things that I always talk to people about is get yourself on a budget. Make sure that what's coming in, there's not more going out than what's coming in. That's the easiest way to get everybody in trouble, right? And it's so easy to do. The credit card companies and the banks make it so easy for us to all spend more money that maybe we don't always have. And one day we turn around and, oh my gosh, there's more going out than there is coming in. What do I do now? Yep. So we just don't want to get ourselves in that position. We just want to make sure that what's coming in is at least equal, and hopefully a few of the things that maybe we talk about are built into that, what's going out is already planned on what's going out, right? Whether that's money that you're putting into an ABLE account, whether it's money that you're putting into your 401k or your retirement account or whatever that might be. Making sure that you're protected, your family's protected if you don't wake up tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 100%. I mean, Jeff.
I know that last part sounds like a downer because it is, but
it's actual facts though. You're speaking facts though. This is something you have to realize. If you right now don't have a financial plan for when you go, which can be tomorrow, unfortunately, you are losing. Right now, you are losing. The reason why is because you need to make sure that your family is being taken care of after you're gone. Not to mention the expenses for burial these days are extremely ridiculous. It's almost the amount of a car to bury somebody, and that's a basic burial.
It's the absolute truth.
It's ridiculous. So people, listen to Jeff. You got to have that plan in place. And it's crazy, Jeff, because I did a segment on fire safety for individuals who have, for parents who have individuals on the spectrum. And one of the things that we were taught, and me saying in the show, in the actual segment, was, do you have a plan in place?
Yeah.
In case you cannot reach your child in the other part of the house that is burning, do you have a plan in place that the child knows, okay, it's smoke, it's fire, I need to stay down to the ground, I need to try to see if I can crawl here. My parents know I will be exiting out this window doing this. And it's the simple things like that can help save a life, that can give that extra 5-10 minutes of air. Closing doors. There were so many topics that I talked about. I have to do a part 2, but once again, a plan. And you have to do that with anything that you really want to come out good, satisfactory. You got to put a plan in place. So definitely, kudos to you as far as, stating that. It starts with a plan, sitting down, pen and paper,
You have to know
going
where you
down
are.
everything.
You have to know where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. You
You
have to
know,
know. And you got to be honest too. That's
you
the
have to be
thing.
honest.
Honesty. You got to be
Sometimes
honest.
it hurts.
Oh, it hurts. Oh, it's an ego. It's an ego buster
It's a
right
big ego
there. It
thing,
hurts.
right?
It definitely does. You shouldn't have leased that car because that car payment is too high. But you out here trying to impress these chicks. I think you need to take that car back. There's nothing wrong with that. Just being an adult about things and just re-examining your finances.
Yep.
That's what it is. So we talked about the able accounts. Now I want to put in savings bonds. Back in the day, grandmas was real big about savings bonds. I know I had a savings bond from like God knows when, and that was the way to go. Which one is better, savings bonds or the able accounts, or would an individual just invest here and there and just wait back for a bigger yield return to come in? What would be better for a parent that has a child that's on the spectrum that want to basically start saving for them?
So I think so much of this depends on what's your appetite for risk,
Okay.
right? It's where I start with every client, whether they have a child with special needs or it's just them as future retirees. What's your appetite for risk? And what I mean by that is, if you're going to be involved in the stock market, you need to be able to manage through the ups and downs. If you can, that's probably where you're going to make the most money. Okay. But I mean, in 20 years, I've been doing this for coming up on 21 years. In 21 years, everybody always feels like they can accept more risk than what they can, right? You start to see something dropping off and, you get a little nervous. A little bit nervous is okay. I don't mind if people get a little upset. I always tell clients before we do anything, there are going to be times you're going to open up your statement and you're not going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you that, especially if you're of a certain age, you're not going to be happy. What are you going to do when you're not happy? Because that's the determining factor.
Yep.
Are you going to say, okay, let's talk and make sure that I have an understanding of what's going on, or do we need to take some action? Everybody's different and every situation is different, but you need to be able to, in most cases, stick things out. That's not always the answer anybody wants to hear.
Yeah.
Sometimes taking no action is the action that you need to take.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always easy. And I before being in the investment world and financial planning, I did some of my own investing, and I was horrible for myself because I allowed it to get emotional.
Okay.
When that's why I think it's hard for people to do it on their own. At least that's my opinion.
Okay.
Because you allow too much emotion to get involved. When emotion jumps in, you usually do the wrong thing at the right time, meaning the wrong thing is to sell when it goes to the bottom, which is the wrong time. Yep. Right? So you've got to be able to say, when there's an opportunity like that, even if I don't have the money to invest, would that be my approach? To look at it and say, this is an opportunity. It's not that the world is falling in. Okay. And depending on how much appetite you have for that would determine, what your portfolio looks like, right? On the different note, you can go things much more conservative. You can invest in an able account. In an able account, you can invest in some mutual fund type investments. There's also a platform in there that is risk averse, no risk. So you have some options there. I like able accounts. I would rather see you probably put money in an able account than go and buy a savings bond.
Okay.
Mainly because even you can put money in the able account and put it in a very low risk investment type.
Okay.
And make a little bit of money. Okay. I think that sometimes people miss the fact that inflation is always out there and it's constantly eating away at your money. Over time, look, if inflation is 3%, which historically it averages around 3%, if your money's not at least making 3%, you're losing money.
Wow.
You're losing purchasing power, right?
Okay.
Because the price of goods and services went up 3%. And if you didn't at least earn 3%, you can't buy as much.
You can't buy as much. Yep.
Right. And over time, and in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it doesn't feel like a whole lot. But over 10, 20, 30, 40 years, it adds up.
Yeah.
So look, I'm not telling people to go out and invest or anything like that. I'm saying that, you need to assess what you're doing. Talk to somebody that has some knowledge and is willing to help you out. And you need to assess what you're willing to do. And again, if you're investing, and that's specifically for the child, the ABLE account works really well because it's not going to disqualify them when they turn 18. Okay. Wow. Because we want to make sure that if they're going to get Medicaid and SSI, we want to make sure that they still get those benefits, right? And if they have money in their name, if they have more than $2,000 in their name, they run the risk of losing it, or at least having it reduced.
Wow.
So, it's important when you start to talk about beneficiaries on, if you have life insurance, if you have an IRA, a 401k, whatever it might be, if there's a beneficiary and that child's named as a beneficiary and you pass, you may have had really great intentions, what I said before, but it might have a really bad outcome.
Wow. Wow. And
so there are remedies, you can, we can talk a little bit later about the importance maybe of a special needs trust and things like that. And people hear trust and they think I've got to be a millionaire, and you don't. That's not what a special needs trust is all about. Wow. It's really a holding place so that if you do leave money to a child, the trust owns the money, they can benefit from it, but it's not going to keep them from keeping their Medicaid and their SSI.
Wow. See, I never even knew about a trust. That's amazing to actually hear, because you're right. When I hear trust, I think of Bruce Wayne, all the rich people that they, just draw from the trust fund.
Doesn't need to be.
And they're fine.
Look, it's not for everybody. If it's going to be a very small amount that's going to go, there are other ways that you might want to try and do it. You can leave some of that money to the ABLE account, but there are limitations as to what you can put in there also.
Wow. And that's funny that you talked about 401ks, because that goes into my next question. A lot of people invest heavily in their 401k. You get the job, you're working the job, you're like, hey, you know what? Take the money straight off of my check so I don't see it, so I'm saving money. Just
happens in the background, right? Just happens in the background.
It's gone.
Yep.
Is that a good way for an awesome father like myself to invest for my awesome child's future?
So it's not my favorite way.
Okay.
So, and people are probably going to say, oh my gosh, really? But it's that 401k, that should be there, and you should be putting money into that, so that, remember, when the mask comes down, which is retirement, and it's time to start breathing the oxygen, there's money in the 401k to help you live, right?
Yep.
Because we all still have to go on. So, that's why it's really important to try and put together a plan, because there are different components. You need to take care of you, and then you need to do the things that you need to do to make sure that your child's going to be good, or the young adult at that point, whatever it might be. So it's really important to take a look at all those different things. And just as I said, look, you may put enough money into your 401k, and who knows how long you live, maybe you pass and there's still money in the 401k. You don't want to leave that to the child. Because if it's more than $2,000, there go the benefits, right? Or at least they're at risk. So what happens is, that's where the special needs trust comes into play, where you change the beneficiary from the child with special needs to the special needs trust. Okay, so the money goes into the trust. There's some restrictions, but the child can then benefit from the money in the trust, the 401k money in the trust. And that's the way that you help them keep their benefits.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Look at that. I mean, information you would never think of. You think you're helping, but you're actually damaging your child
Yep.
in the long run. And, just, you get your financial advisor like Jeff here, you sit back, you think about what your plan is. Once again, your plan.
Yep.
And Jeff, someone just like Jeff advises you, be like, oh, wait a second, you might not want to do that. And this is the reason why. You're like, oh my God, I never would have thought about that. I would have thought I would be helping my child, but I'm actually hindering my child. So Jeff, real good information, especially about the 401k, since that's
It's what everybody thinks, right? Stuff it away, stuff it away, stuff it away.
exactly.
And
And
I'm
not
not
only
telling you
that,
not to. I'm just saying don't rely on that being the main source to go to the child.
exactly. I mean, you hear 401ks now. When you apply for a job, it's one of their perks. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
they put it through like one of their perks,
And
and
it
you're
is.
fascinated by it, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can save for my child. I can save for this. I can save for that. Well, really, just like you said, this should be used as a lifeline for yourself, because I don't think anybody want to be working past 65. I don't think that's the
Now I'm
plan.
going to be working till I don't even know how old.
I might see you out there, brother. I might really see you out there. Trust me. Oh man, but nobody wants to. Somebody at the end of the day, one wants to be able to relax and enjoy retirement for what it is.
Yep.
You put in those years of work. You want to just basically enjoy the fruits of your labor, and also still have the income to make sure that your children is being taken care of. So that's very, very important. So
If you
I
don't
have
mind, add one thing, I know when you mentioned the 1.4 million to raise a child with autism, sometimes that can feel like such a big number, right?
yeah, yeah,
And people say, well, I'm never going to get there. And you know what? A lot of people won't. The majority of people won't,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do something.
Exactly. Exactly.
Even though we can't do everything that we want, doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to do as much as we can,
Exactly. Everything
right?
doesn't have to be big.
That's
Baby
right.
step. Just get it there, get it there, get it there. And before you know it, you'll sit back and be like, oh my God, I saved this much. Is the coin jar challenge. You have the big water barrels, and every time you just put your change in it, put your change in it, and before long, you take it to the bank and you can barely pick it up because you have so much change in there. And you're like, geez, I never would have thought I would have been able to save this. I remember the first time I was actually able to save money. I had a really bad spending habit, And this was the when I was young, and, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make this money right back. So let me spend it. And, I sat there and was like, okay, I'm not going to spend that. I'm going to put it in the bank. It took me about what? Like not even a week, 2 weeks to save $1,000. And it felt amazing. For the first time, I'm like, yo, this is the first time I saved $1,000 by myself. Didn't know anything about it, but it was discipline. It was about having a plan, being disciplined to it, putting that money away, and just looking at what I'm spending my money on, and just having a plan. And, from that point on, I continue to save, I continue to save, and I continue to save. And it helped me out. It helped me out tremendously. So, for all
What you
you,
just said is so important. You used one word, and it was just so important, and that's discipline.
yeah, yeah,
It's the hardest one to try and deal with.
it is. It is with
But it's so
anything.
important. And you can sum up everything that we're probably going to talk about, and you put things into place, but then you've got to have the discipline to carry them through. So
Definitely.
that's such an important point. Just one word that you mentioned is just such an important point.
It is discipline. That's the major factors. That's what we gotta have. That's what we gotta have. Well,
Yep.
I do have one, two. I got two more questions, and
Yeah.
then your information as far as your contact. So I'm gonna skip one because I really want to get people an understanding of who you are, Jeff. Not
Yep.
just a financial advisor, but once again, people may have lost the point that you are a awesome father yourself.
Yep.
So what would you like to tell families regarding saving for their awesome child or their awesome adult? What would be some words from you?
Look, I'm going to go back to what I said before. If I could tell you three things, it's plan, plan, plan. It's pretty simple. Um, Look, you have to be willing to be humble enough to say, I might, maybe I need some help. Maybe I don't know everything that there is to know. I mean, look, try to tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
When we learned about my son, and a few years later, my wife and I started talking about this stuff, and the big question was, well, what happens when we're not here?
Yeah.
And there was an awkward silence.
Silence. Yep.
you know
Yep.
and that's the thing that everybody's got to deal with, and that's why it's so important to have a plan, because there are definitely things that need to go in a certain priority. Okay, there are several things that need to be addressed. Some have a higher level of importance than others, and some of the ones that are at the top of the importance have a different priority.
Yep.
So I think it's really important to look. None of us, we don't know what we don't know,
Exactly.
and that's why sometimes you need to have some help. You need to get somebody that understands, right? Maybe been through it a few times, um, and they're willing to help you and try and help you figure it out, right? And I'm going to go back to, there are a lot of things that I would love to do to put into place for my son. I can't
Yeah.
afford them all,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that I should do nothing. So, when we were starting to go through this planning for ourselves, and I didn't do what I do now. I was a financial advisor, but I didn't specialize in special needs or anything like that. And I started to educate myself and started to learn. And I was almost embarrassed that I didn't know these things, because
Wow.
I'm a financial advisor. I should know those things.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. And I'm not afraid to say it, because I didn't know.
Okay.
But you learn, and it's just funny because I was being, another firm, the firm that I'm with now, was trying to recruit me to come and work for them. And I was really happy where I was. And I told them no at least 3 times on the phone. And they were very persistent. And the fellow that runs our agency, he said, do me a favor, just come and have a cup of coffee with me. That
There
was
you
the
go.
worst thing I could have done, right? You go and have the cup of coffee. So we sit down,
Exactly.
we have a cup of coffee, and I was still ready to tell him no. And then at the end, and I don't even remember how it happened, but we got on the subject, and he told me that he has a son with autism,
Wow.
and that was the
Wow.
connection.
That was the connection. See? That was the
So,
connection.
sometimes you see in life that there are things that just kind of hit you in the face and say, it's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it was for me. And I love what I do. It's not always easy. I can't always wave a magic wand and make certain things happen, but I can tell you, I pour out with, from the heart, with as a father,
Mhm.
and as an awesome father, and so you get from me maybe what you don't always want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. The
But you
truth
get from
hurts.
me
The
the
truth
things
hurts.
that we need to put into place, and we
Yep.
do the best that we can. You know, we do the best that we can. We have a checklist, and I'd be happy to send it to you. We've got a checklist
Yeah.
if you want to post it somewhere or anything like that.
Definitely.
We have a
Definitely.
checklist that everybody should go through. There's like 10, 12 questions on there, and you should answer yes or no. Okay. And anything that's a no answer just means that it's something that needs to be addressed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what we do, is we go through, we find out what's been done, what hasn't been done, check off the boxes, and then we prioritize, and then we just start checking off those boxes. And then at the end of the day, you have a plan. And it takes a little while. I'm not going to tell you it happens in one meeting. It doesn't. I'm going to tell
Exactly.
you it doesn't. It takes time, and that's okay, because sometimes we need time to allow those things to flow.
That's right.
But
That's
the
right.
protection is also the important piece. Please know that if you don't wake up tomorrow, who's going to take care of that child?
Yep.
Who's going to be there?
Yep.
How are they going to grow up? Are they going to be happy? They're going to be taken care of. Who's going to take care of them?
Yep.
And I think that because the spectrum is so wide, there are aspirations that we hope that some of our kids are going to be able to do certain things, and sometimes we know that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to put things into place to try and take care of all those kids as best as we can.
as
And
best
then
as
we
we
hope that
can.
there's a little bit of luck and some
Yep.
good people out there.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I couldn't have said it, more amazingly prestigious as Jeff said it. You get the important thing: plan, plan, plan. Three P's: plan, 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 plan. You got to always be planning. You never know what can actually take place, and you got to be honest. Everybody needs to plan. It's not just
Life happens in a minute, in a second.
yeah.
I was driving to an appointment a few years ago, and I drive a lot. I'm on the road a lot, which
Yep.
puts you more at risk, right? And I'm driving it, and I was on 476 going north. And if you
Okay.
know where the interchange is before, right where you keep going north, and then you make the right and you go to on 276. And
Yeah.
it was rainy out, and I'm driving. There's another car in front of me, and there's a semi in the left hand lane. And
Woo.
the semi came into our lane, hit the guy in front of me. Now, if that guy weren't there, it would have been me,
It would have
right?
been you.
Hit the guy in front of me. The guy hit the median right there, flipped over, spun around,
Oh
and thankfully everybody was okay. But it was raining out, so I had it was a dad and two girls, and I asked them if they wanted to sit in my car until somebody got there.
yeah.
And so I asked them their story, and here's how life is. The dad was taking the two girls on a college visit in New York. They were from Maryland because they asked me what state are we in when they got in the accident. The dad was taking the two girls. They were both up for college basketball scholarships. He was
Wow.
taking them for a visit, and that's what happened.
Wow. See?
So life
Life,
happens, man.
life, just like that. Life can happen.
Good
Jeff,
things and bad, right? Good things and bad. I don't want to make it
yeah,
all bad.
yeah.
Good
It's
things and
not all
bad.
bad. It's some good things, but you got to just be real and understand that there's bad things out there and they happen just like you said, Jeff, just like that. At the blink of an eye. So plan, plan, plan. Well, Jeff, it was amazing. We got that conference coming up, but it was amazing to
I'm
get
looking
you
forward
on
to
a
it.
more. I'm looking forward to it. Also, I'm very blessed and very humble to be a part of that. But it's even more better just to get you on an intimate setting, just speaking one-on-one about financial planning, how important it is. But most importantly, how can people get in contact with you? How can
Sure.
people reach out to you?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I'll give you my phone number for anybody that wants to jot it down. It's 610-945-6936. Again, it's 610-945-6936. That's my direct cell phone.
Okay,
I don't charge for consultations. I
there you
just
go.
it's too important for somebody to say I can't sit down and not get the right information because they can't make a payment.
Yeah,
I'm never going to do that.
there you
And
go.
then if anybody wants to email me, my email is jslavich@financialguide.com. And that's financial guide, all one word.
There you go.
Not financial guy, it's financial guide.
There you go. Make sure you guys get it right. Well, Jeff, I want to say thank you for making this episode possible. This is something that's been on my heart. I spoke about able accounts plenty of times, different grants that are out there that I took advantage of when me and
Yep.
my son's mother was together. So there's so many different things that a lot of people don't know about. And one of the major parts is individuals like yourself, financial advisors. But what make you stand out more than the rest, and I'm sure there's plenty other ones, is that you are in their shoes. You are an awesome dad. So you know exactly what they're thinking, the trials and tribulations they've been through, that I've been through. You can relate. So it makes it a little bit more personable, especially speaking with you and getting the understanding of your story and how everything came about. So I just want to thank you once again for your transparency, your time being on here. And once again, for you guys paying attention to the awesome show, I just want to say thank you. I am humbled and blessed that you've been supporting me and just what my mission is, and everything that I just want to unpack about my journey with my son Shane. I love you guys. Stay tuned to the next episode, my man Jeff. Don't forget, we're in that conference, November
Looking
9th to the
forward to it.
13th. Exactly. Really good. Dr. Robert Nassif, Eric Williams, the man right here, Jeff. And yours truly is a blessing. Philly Autism, look them up on the web. You can go ahead and click on the link to register, and we hope to see you there. All right. Thank you and peace.